shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
It is a black omen to journey in poor health. You will remain and well rest yourself.
Hello YouTubers out there, this is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So today we're talking about Nosferatu, which is the third official remake of the 1922 film Nosferatu, that back in the day starred Max Schreck, directed by F.W. Murnau. And then there was a second one called Nosferatu the Vampire, which came out in 1979, directed by Werner Herzog. This is actually one of two different versions that just came out. The other one I think is currently on Apple TV and also on Amazon Prime Video. That version is called Nosferatu Symphony of Horror, which is technically what the 1922 version was called. So here we are, and this is a new version that we're reviewing today by director Robert Eggers, best known for The Lighthouse. And here are my thoughts. Well, I found many scenes quite powerful. There were some very strong, illuminating scenes, particularly with Lily Rose Depp playing Ellen Hutter. And she has convulsions and seizures, and she is really, I mean, the performance in here is, I never quite seen anything like it. Apparently, director Eggers was influenced by one of three different films, but in particular Possession, from 1981, which starred Isabelle Adjani, who, by the way, was in the 1979 version of Nosferatu. So, her performance, I think, makes this film, in addition to Bill Skarsgård, who plays, of course, Count Orlok. And this is, you know, your traditional Dracula story. For those of you who don't know Nosferatu, it's really no different from Dracula, except that it takes place in Würzburg, Germany. And yes, the character is Thomas Hutter. It's not Jonathan Harker or Renfield. I mean, depending which Dracula version you know of which there were untold numbers throughout the last century. So, and it takes place still in the Transylvania, in the Carpathian Mountains, where Count Orlok is. The reason he's known as Orlok is because the original 1922 version of Nosferatu was going to be a version of Dracula, but they couldn't get the rights, so they had to change the names. But a lot of it is pretty much very, very similar. Thomas Hutter has to go out to Transylvania, meet up with the Count. You know, he's interested in purchasing some property. It's really no different than you might expect. There is a Van Helsing character, but in this case it's Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz, which is not really the most memorable name, but nonetheless, this is somebody who in this version is a Swiss philosopher who was thrown out of a university because of his interest in alchemy, mysticism, and the occult. You know, very difficult things for 1838, of which this story is being set in. And Willem Dafoe, of course, plays him. So that's kind of like your Van Helsing type character. Willem Dafoe, by the way, played Max Schreck, although that version is called Shadow of the Vampire. It's about the making of Nosferatu, the 1922 version. But he plays Count Orlok as quite possibly a real vampire, not, you know, because there's some mystery about Max Schreck. Nicholas Hoult is Thomas Hutter, and, you know, he sees Count Orlok, and you don't really see Orlok right away. He's sort of shrouded in darkness, you know, and but his voice transmits. I mean, it's an incredible voice. It is very threatening, very imposing, very dark, very ominous. This is a very dark film, not just in terms of look, which is not, the photography here is fantastic in this movie. Although I think I still have a preference for what Werner Herzog did in his 1979 version. But he's always shrouded in darkness at first, and that makes him more ominous. So you don't know really what to expect, what he's going to do, and the minute that Hutter cuts his finger with a knife after cutting some bread is just, that's it. It's pretty much over. The guy reveals himself to be a vampire, which is the case with the other Nosferatus as well. Not necessarily the case with Dracula in general, depending on which version you have seen. And now there are some new characters in here that didn't appear before in any version of Nosferatu I was aware of. Aaron Taylor Johnson plays, who's Craven the Hunter, plays Friedrich Harding. And he is husband to a woman named Anna. So Emma Corrin plays Anna Harding. These are confidants and best friends of Thomas Hutter, or the Hutter family. It's very clear in this version that Orlok and this woman, Ellen, they have a strong connection that goes way back, quite a few years earlier. So that's the opening scene in the movie where she's on the grass and it seems very orgasmic for her, and suddenly there's a hand that, grasps her throat and nearly kills her, and then she kind of wakes up. There's a lot of that in this film. They wake up and there's nobody there, type thing. But it's all very real. It is happening. So Orlok is basically a ravenous monster with a mustache, which is very different. And it's interesting that throughout the film, until really the very end of the picture, without giving away too much, but I would assume most people have seen Nosferatu or the other versions, you don't really see him up close. He's always somehow shrouded in darkness, even in close-ups, until the very end. And you'll know what I mean by that. The voice, everything, it transmits in such a way, it's no different than what Gary Oldman did for Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula. The film itself also, not just his voice, evokes a little bit of Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, mixed in, although it's not as operatic in its visual flourishes, but mixed in with Werner Herzog's film, and with the use of shadow that was so prevalent in the original Nosferatu, but not so much in the 1979 version. The 79 version is a different kind of movie. That's the dread of being a vampire century after century. It made it much more, if you can empathize with somebody who just continues to live for too long, that's kind of what the 79 version is like. This film, he's a ravenous monster, and very, very much a sexual monster. I mean, he wants to have his way with Ellen Hutter, and she's ready for him, and she's willing to do it, and she even compares his sexual prowess with Thomas Hutter in a scene that was really, it just blew my mind that this was even mentioned. But what it brings up is an interesting thing. It shows that this creature can somehow reduce the repression of its characters from 1838, a different time, sexually repressed sort of time, you could say, and he brings it out of them. It's really quite interesting how that's done. So I appreciated that. The actors are terrific. I think Nicholas Hoult at times came off a little bit stiff here and there, but his moments of being terrified by this evil presence was astonishing. I mean, it was terrific. Overall, very well directed picture. There's a scene that also reminds me of Coppola's Dracula, when you see the carriage that comes to take Thomas Hutter to the Transylvanian castle. And the carriage, the shots of him with the slight amount of fog in the background through this lonely road, and the carriage arrives and it has horses but no driver. So it's a little bit different from at least the 22 version. I think the 79 version he's also absent, the driver, who's supposed to be, of course, Count Orlok, at least in the original version. So, but here it's almost like he's sliding into the carriage. It was really quite effective. I liked it a lot, but I wouldn't say it's really up to the level of the first two Nosferatus, but what the hell can be? Those two, I mean, the 79 version is the greatest vampire flick ever made, in my opinion, and as well as the 1922 version, which is the most iconic vampire movie outside of Bela Lugosi and Dracula. No question in mind about that. So, do watch Nosferatu. It is worth seeing in a theater. The version I saw was very effective. I'm told the IMAX version is even better. The sound was very effective. The sound design was very effective. So either way you see it, it's still going to be quite effective every way. And the cinematography is stunning. I can't imagine the cinematography not being nominated for Best Cinematography at the Oscars. I think Lily Rose Depp will be nominated. I don't know if she will, but she is really that good. It's just amazing what she has to do in this picture. The mixture of all the convulsions and the sheer anxiety of this creature coming, and whether or not, and we're not sure if she really wants that creature to be with her or not, but you feel like it's a kind of, push and pull, like, yes, maybe, oh, we're not sure. And then you realize, yes, she does, but ultimately to sacrifice herself to save this town, which of course has been corrupted by the plague that he brought from the boat that's taken Orlok from Transylvania to Visburg. So of course there are all these rats everywhere. If you don't like rats in a movie, this is not the movie for you. But the other versions of Nosferatu also have the rats. I just thought it was very powerful. Overall, some extraordinary scenes. I do feel maybe it is a bit too long. I would have liked a little bit less about the Harding family. I don't think I needed to see that much. Although there's one scene that Orlok, they have two kids, the Hardings, two little girls, and they start screaming and screaming, and it's really quite scary, that scene. And the mother runs to the other room, and she finds him there, and he throws them down like they are rag dolls. He obviously killed the kids. I mean, strong stuff. It's a very, very dark film. It's one of the darkest vampire flicks you probably will see in quite some time. Check it out. I was surprised. I didn't expect it to be that good. I don't consider it a great film, but it's definitely good. So, have you seen Nosferatu by Robert Eggers? What do you think of the director? I will start watching some of his earlier films. I haven't seen them, so I'm going to start probably with The Lighthouse, I guess. What do you think of the other, in comparison to other Nosferatu pictures? Or are you a fan of vampires and Dracula and all that good stuff? So let me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. If you like this review and you aren't a subscriber, please subscribe to my channel. I do reviews quite often and talk about all sorts of cinematically related topics. If you are a subscriber, thank you. I've gained some new subscribers in the last few days. I think over 5,300. That's pretty damn good. And please hit the notification bell for future uploads. And that's all I got to say about Nosferatu. But I will do another video discussing other versions of Nosferatu, including a Symphony of Horror remake. Yet another remake. But I'm curious. I want to see this. I always love Nosferatu, obviously. I mean, look at this shirt. I have 3 different shirts on this Orlok. So, let me your thoughts. Tell me what you think. And that's all I got to say about that. And Happy New Year to everybody. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.